When my boyfriend and I broke up before heading off to different universities, I never imagined that my love life would take a pretty dramatic turn, where I ended up being the third wheel in an affair. Let me backtrack a bit. I'm Juliana, a 19-year-old amateur marathon runner. I'd been a part of a running club for the past 5 years that met twice a week. And during that time, I became quite close to two of the runners there. They were both much older than me, but we got on well. Leo was a middle-aged bachelor, and Charlotte was a mom of 2 and had been married for more than 20 years. They both worked together in the same trading company, and I can't really explain it, but we all just clicked. We always ran together, but one morning, Leo didn't turn up. That was odd because he never missed a session. Anyway, Charlotte and I ran together, and that night I received a message from Leo asking if I wanted to have dinner with him. I was a bit surprised, but this was Leo's first time inviting me to a private meal, but I still said yes, and we went to a restaurant downtown. At dinner, we got into some deep conversations, and at one point, I asked him, "Why have you stayed single till now?" He stopped a bit and replied to me, "It's hard to say, but I've just had a bad breakup a few years ago, and I wasn't ready to get into another relationship." Oh, that's why he decided to stay single, even though he's a pretty successful and attractive man. It was quite awkward after that. So I broke the silence by asking him why he hadn't come running that morning, and he just said something had come up at work. He was acting a little strange, but I didn't push it. Anyway, it was a nice dinner, and afterwards we shared a cab home, as we lived on the same street. Well, that's when something weird happened. Charlotte was waiting on his doorstep. Leo looked shocked to see her there and quickly ran out to check what was wrong. Charlotte hadn't seen me, so I wound the window down and happily waved to her, but to my complete surprise, she looked kinda annoyed. Then she just said they had work to do, and she hoped I got home safely. I didn't give it much thought, but in hindsight, what kind of work project needs to be done at 10 p.m.? Anyway, I didn't give it much thought. Surely there couldn't have been anything going on, right? I mean, Charlotte and Leo are colleagues and also close friends. And I'd met Charlotte's family. Sure, her husband was away for work a lot, but they loved each other. And they had kids together. I got home and chilled for a bit. Then about an hour later, I received a text from Leo asking if I'd like to join him for a midnight run. I immediately said yes. Well, to be honest, deep down, I totally had a bit of a crush on him. Even though I knew my parents would freak if they ever found out I was hanging out with the guy old enough to be my dad. It excites me, though. So I went for a run along the beach with him. And afterwards, we got some takeaway food and sat on the sand, listening to the waves and watching the stars. I guess we were both high off adrenaline, and also it was such a romantic setting with all the city lights reflected on the water. So we got into a really deep conversation about relationships and what we want from love. Then one thing led to another, and we started kissing. We ended up spending the whole night on the beach and even watched the sunrise. When I got home, I couldn't stop smiling. But then I saw I had 5 missed calls from Charlotte. I quickly called her back, thinking something must have happened. But when she picked up, she just said, "Where were you last night?" I told her I was on a run, and she said, "With who?" So I said, "With Leo? Why?" And she just said, "Oh, I was just curious. He wasn't answering my calls." Then we hung up. How strange, I thought. Anyway, that night, Leo asked me if I wanted to have dinner together again. And of course I said yes. I was dying to know if last night had just been a one-night makeout sesh, or if it could mean something more. When I saw him, I said to him, "Leo, sorry about last night. I got carried away, and I'm like half your age. I shouldn't have done that." Oh, I don't know what I was thinking. I expected him to say it was okay, and that he enjoyed it like I did. But instead, he said, "Yeah, let's just pretend that nothing happened." I felt so awkward after that, but I couldn't deny my feelings for him. After that, we got even closer, though. We spent more time together and spoke on the phone every night for hours. Then one night, Charlotte called me and said she'd had a fight with Leo, and that's why she'd gone to his place the week before. Now it all made sense. So that's why they hadn't been coming to the running club together. She said they still hadn't made up, and she needed someone to talk to. She sounded upset, but wouldn't tell me what the fight was about. Then she asked if we could meet up, although it was quite awkward. I had to tell her I was actually going to the theater with Leo. Leo and I both love going to the theater, and that night we had tickets to see Shakespeare in the park. She asked why we hadn't invited her to join, and I said she could totally join us, but obviously it was too late to get tickets. Then she just hung up. Next days, I realized that Charlotte and Leo would only attend alternate running sessions so that they could avoid each other. I talked to both Leo and Charlotte about it, but they simply claimed that their work was getting stressful and hence they could only handle one training session a week. Then one Friday morning, I noticed Charlotte was in a seriously foul mood. Normally she was so upbeat, so I asked her what was up, and that's when she told me. She'd been having an affair with Leo for the past 3 years. I was shook. I mean, I guess I should have seen it coming, but I still couldn't hide my shock. I'd thought of her as such a role model, with this amazing family and a great job. And yet, here she was, nothing but a cheat. And with Leo, the guy I was seeing. Oh my God, what kind of mess had I got involved in? Charlotte begged me to keep it a secret, but I couldn't even speak. I was in complete denial. If she knew what Leo and I had been up to, and yet, why did it matter? She was the one having an affair, not me. I continued to see Leo, and one time he even invited me over to watch a movie at his place. And we made out again. It was amazing. But at the same time, I had Charlotte calling me every night for moral support, which made things really weird. For the next month or so, Leo and I kept meeting up, and I loved it. But I knew that if Charlotte found out, she'd kill me. It was such a dilemma. Then one night, she called me and said, "If you're my friend, Juliana, you'll stop seeing Leo. Please, I'm begging you." I couldn't believe it. How did she know? Sorry, Charlotte. How did you find out? She said it was a woman's sixth sense, and that she'd known ever since the night when I'd been in the cab with him. Plus, she said it was obvious that I'd had a crush on him for a while. All right, but why do you care if I'm still with Leo? You're married. He's single. He can do whatever he wants, I said to her. Then she said, "Please, for my sanity, please stop seeing him. I'm jealous, okay? It hurts to know you're together. Plus, he's not a good guy." Well, that did it. I wasn't going to break the sisters before misters rule, so I stopped seeing Leo. I couldn't hurt Charlotte like that, even though she was actually the one hurting her whole family by having this affair. Not seeing Leo made me miss him so much, but I told myself I had to keep my word to Charlotte. And yet, you won't believe what happened next. Charlotte started seeing Leo again. I was so angry. She'd asked me to stop seeing him and had even said he wasn't a good guy. All so she could have him to herself again? What kind of married woman does that? Honestly, I was raging. One morning after running, I marched over to her and said, "Do you not have any self-respect? What about your poor husband?" Charlotte went bright red and said, "I'm trying my best. I know you're right, and I should respect myself and my husband more. You know what? From now on, I will keep my distance from Leo, just like you. Trust me." Okay, so at least she had the decency to say that. And I hoped she could do exactly what she said. After that, I decided to take a break out of this complicated 3-person relationship and tried to forget about Leo. I avoided him at the running club, and he avoided me too. Charlotte told me she'd spoken to him about dating me and how inappropriate it was for him to date someone as young as me. So maybe that's why the feeling was mutual. And he avoided me too. After all, it's better that way. He was way too old for me anyway. Plus, I was heading off to university. So it was all for the best. About Charlotte, after I confronted her, we actually became closer. And even now that I'm at university, she still calls me sometimes to ask how I'm doing. I asked her about Leo, and you won't believe it, but apparently Leo is now dating someone. Okay, I guess that's better for everyone. Although I sometimes wonder, if they break up, will he start up his affair with Charlotte again? Well, it's a story about my ebullient youth, when I got into so much trouble just because I fell in love with a middle-aged man. That whole period of my life was such a weird and messy time, right? But now I'm so glad I've met a nice guy my own age, and of course I never want to get involved in being a third wheel ever again.